Taylor, why don't you tell us a little bit how you got into precision shooting and how long you've been at it?
I would say, I don't know. I mean, precision shooting. I grew up shooting. I grew up on a farm. I hunted birds every day after school, squirrels, shooting all the time. And of course, you get into big game hunting when you turn 12. And I don't know, probably around 14, 15-ish, I got into hunting coyotes because hunting once a year wasn't enough for me. So I started hunting coyotes and get a couple that hang up out there, 600 yards, don't come in anymore. And so I went down and I bought a 22 to 50 and this cool reticle, BDC reticle, looked like a sniper scope. And so I started doing that and we were practicing shooting milk jugs. And first time doing that, um, just getting the math figured out, what zoom you had to be on to hit those targets and how it changed from day to day, chasing that around. Um, when we first got into that, the first time that we started shooting at long range, I was hooked. And after that, I bought every book and DVD that I could get my hands on about, what it took to hit stuff at long range and make your gun shoot better. And that was, in high school. So that was how I
Yeah,
got into precision shooting. Just,
that's just all been uphill from there, huh?
yeah, just winging it,
Yeah.
realizing, you go out one time and you think, man, I've got this figured out. And then you go out and duplicate what you did last time and it's not working. You're scratching your head, going, what the heck's going on, man?
Yeah, yeah,
But
absolutely. Did you have a mentor at all, as you were kind of finding your passion in all this?
no, I mean, my dad, I hunted with my dad, but I mean, even back then, I knew more about guns than he did. So,
Sure. Yeah, okay.
I mean, we did a lot of archery and muzzleloader hunting, growing up, mainly what we killed everything with. I only recently, recent, I say, for the last 6 years or so, switched to hunting with rifles
Mm,
because I want to put the stuff I'm building to use.
yeah.
I like that now. But yeah, I didn't have a mentor, but there was later, later on, there was a girlfriend's father that got me into reloading. That really, when I started loading my own ammo and learned how many rabbit holes there were going down that path, that really helped. But
Hmm.
I'm kind of a fanatic. It didn't take me too long to pass up everything that he taught me, and so anyway, I haven't had, I've had mentors, people that I look up to, but not like personal conversations, deep relationships with people like that. But
Yeah. Okay. Cool, man. Um, what disciplines or formats have you competed in or practiced, if any?
yeah, I mean, formal competition when I was a kid, just 22 in archery and 4-H. I think I won archery every single year, and I won 22 one of the years. I think I competed in that for 3 years or so. But that was open sight stuff,
Hmm.
probably 20 yards, offhand, sitting, kneeling. But that was when I was a kid. Ditched that when I started big game hunting, and really just I was in the woods or out roaming around in the hills shooting everything we could find. And I mean that's pretty much most of my practice ever since then has been geared towards the mechanical aspect of what makes rifles shoot good and
Hmm.
practicing, long range shooting, first shot impacts, reading the wind. And that's really paid off in long range hunting for me, but I really want to do the PRS NRL thing, but I'm so busy working that I haven't went down that rabbit hole because I've got 3 kids, a fixer upper house I'm living in and
Oh,
trying to run a business, and hopefully one day I'll get there. But I'm content. I'm happy and
good.
learned a lot along the way just practicing for hunting. So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You had mentioned archery earlier, and I've been in the archery world for a while. I mean, I've been out of it for a while, I should say, but years ago, I was an archery tech, and I ended up getting certified through Hoyt. Um, and uh, there's a lot of skills, in my opinion, that do transition from archery to precision rifle. Um, maybe that's a little more uh, subjective than objective, but um, you know, I I could see some similarities there where, if you get really good at archery, you can get pretty dang good at precision rifle. Maybe even vice versa too.
Yeah, certainly. I think trigger control, if you're running a release, your breathing techniques, all that stuff. And, archery, I mean, it's nice because you can practice in your backyard, even if you live in the city, really, if you got enough length and repetition being out there every day, I think that's where a lot of people could maybe be a lot better at shooting than they are, is if they just spent more time doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Having to travel to the range and stuff is really a limiting factor.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Compared to, probably my grandpa, hunting season rolled around and he'd get the old 243 out once a year, and it's like,
Make sure it was sighted in before you
yeah,
leave.
exactly. Shoot it 2 or 3 times, and it's like, all right, yeah, that's all. A box of 20 will last you a few years.
Yep.
So, but so, I mean, you kind of touched on it initially with my first question. What got you started working with precision rifles? With your career right now.
Yeah, I would say I started on I would call it accurizing fire factory rifles. That's what I first got into for a long while. Started bedding my own stocks, using a Dremel tool to do all that in high school. And we had a career day, type of thing in high school, trying to find out what you want to be when you grow up. And I decided, when I was a senior, that I wanted to build guns for a living. And so when I graduated from high school, I went straight into a local community college, learned manual machine shop, how to run a mill and lathe, blueprint reading.
Mm,
Uh, Even took one course in, CNC 101. I haven't done anything with that in 10 years, but anyway, yeah, I always, that was the first thing that I decided I wanted to do for my day job in high school and after. I grew up, operating heavy machinery, but this was what I always intended to do. I got delayed for 2 years, went and served a mission. When I got back, then I immediately went into working at a precision rifle shop here locally.
mm,
That I was their sole gunsmith for 4 years, and I learned a whole bunch there. And we got that opportunity allowed me a lot of time to learn the rifle aspect before operating a business, which was extremely helpful. And probably the biggest blessing that came out of that was the opportunity to work on actions. The We had an action that was being built for us at that company. Um, Ended up they took that action to a different manufacturer, aerospace engineering company that builds a couple of the other manufacturers in the industry, and they duplicated it for us. Tolerance wise, everything was pretty on par, and it didn't run good. The
mm,
ignition was terrible, opening and closing was bad, and that was you know a big hurdle for my boss at that business, and they didn't know what to do, and I just kind of out of desire picked that up, took it home, disassembled it. How does this work? And kind of took over that program, communicating with the machine shop about what changes to make. And that's kind of what spearheaded me into where I'm at today. Just really interested in action design, how they work, what makes them tick. Because we started with something that would hardly go bang and felt like garbage to operate. And I didn't. That was a cool experience. I'm really grateful for that because it turned me into who I am today.
sure, absolutely, man, absolutely. That's cool. That's amazing. So, how would you say that entire experience has shaped the perspective that you bring to writing?
I think that the writing aspect. I wouldn't call myself a professional writer. I mean, I enjoy to write. I wrote in my journal every day when I was on my mission. But the experience that I gained while I was there working on actions, when you have a deep understanding of how something works, it becomes significantly easier to write about it and explain in a way that's simple for others to understand,
Hmm.
because you understand it back to front, front to back, center out, any direction. When you've got a handle on it, it becomes a lot easier to, help others understand the core principles of what's going on. And, I mean, that didn't come all at once. I'm still not done learning.
Hmm.
But I mean, that experience there, when you get a batch of, 20 to 30 actions, they're all screwed up and you have to fix every single one of them. I fixed a bunch of actions in my life, and
Hmm.
every single one of them now, and tweaking them, the stuff that I get now. But yeah, I think that experience really, it made my business what it is today because of the hardship, I guess you'd say, that we went
Hmm.
through over
Hmm.
there for a little bit. But
In your experience, what's the biggest challenge your customers face when choosing a custom rifle?
biggest challenge, I think, for a lot of the customers on the market is trying to decide what components to use and what gunsmith to use. Um, you've got a lot of businesses out there that are doing a good job advertising, and you can find something positive and something negative about every product out there. And a lot of what customers don't understand is some, this industry is actually pretty small, and there's a lot of parts that work very well together. They were maybe designed, in conjunction because, somebody that knows the owner of X company, develops a product and they kind of design their thing around that. And, I've stopped taking orders on, here's my conglomerate of parts that I read the forums on the internet that say this stuff's going to be good, and assembling that for people. I'm a big stickler on, everything being perfect, fit and finish. And, a lot of the parts just, they don't function well together, So I think the biggest hurdle that a lot of customers go through is trying to decide, where do I even start? What components do I use? Because you've
Sure.
got this guy over here that's, big name hunter, PRS shooter, whatever it is, that's using X company that must be good. But then you call somebody like me or just another voice that's going to say, "Oh, that's garbage," or this other thing's better. So I think the quantity of sheer opinions on the internet is hard to
Oh,
navigate.
yeah. Yeah, I can second that. I totally understand it. We're working here in the sales department for a while. It'll often come up too, oh, I was reading on the forums about this, and I have to remind people like, man, the forums are full of there's good
Yeah,
information in there for sure. Don't get me wrong, but weeding through that information, and especially if you're novice in this entire world, um, you don't know which path to follow, and so um, because there's also a lot of bad information on the
yeah,
forums, and everyone's got a lot of opinions about that kind of stuff. It's definitely a little better to be factual than opinionated when it comes to the precision rifle world.
yeah, for sure.
So,
I think a lot of that stuff, you know, you get people that, oh, this was a hammer, it was a laser. To one person, that might mean half MOA, shooting point 0.6 all the
mhm,
time, or barely touching half. They're happy, But if and
mhm,
some people don't even know how to measure groups. I mean, you have the entire spectrum on the internet. Uh, so, and it's hard to find real pure information, but thankfully that's, social media is actually pretty good for that. If you follow somebody, you can see a lot of their content that they put out. um you know Gunsmiths, businesses, whatever it may be, a lot of them will post results, some don't, but if you can find somebody that's
mhm,
repeatedly getting good results with certain product. The other thing I would recommend to a customer is, not all gunsmiths are created equal. So choose, spend some time calling around, doing some research, on their website, on their social medias, and see who you like. And then when you go to whoever that might be, they use the things that they use for a reason. And it might be that, there's
Mm-hmm.
another really good product, but they're not familiar with it. If you ask somebody who's really, really familiar with a certain type of product to use something different than that and create the same result that they always do, you might not get the same result. So choose
Mm-hmm.
who you're going to use wisely, study that out. And then when you go to them, I would recommend whoever it is, turn it over to them and trust them with what they're going to do their best work at.
For the inquiring mind, what is your favorite cartridge and why?
Well, it depends on if we're hunting mice or elephants. What I do, yeah, I mean,
Sure,
my business
sure.
revolves around precision long range hunting. I mean, I build PRS rifles. I've done a lot of bench rest stuff over the years, but the majority of my business is long range hunting. And for that, 7 Mega, a lot of people haven't even heard of it. I think that's the cat's meow. Been using that for a personal rifle for probably 4 years now. Well, yeah, it might be about 3 years now, but it's a 300 WSM Ackley with a longer neck. It was invented by Rich Sherman Wildcat cartridges, and
Okay.
the thing that I want to stack. I mean, if people haven't looked at my Instagram or can't tell from the short interview already, I'm a fanatic about stacking all the cards in my favor. Mechanically, I want to make it my job as easy as possible. If you're going to go split wood, you don't use your
Mm-hmm.
hatchet. If you're trying to chop a tree down, you don't use your big old heavy axe, for splitting wood. So for long range hunting, I don't want my rifle to have a 30 caliber, and there's some scenarios where I would recommend it. They're extremely rare, but I want long, high BC bullets, that are going fast and less recoil. That's the big thing. Stock design plays into that real big. Overall weight is real huge there, but I want something that's going to make my job as the hunter much easier when I'm in the field. If you get a 300 PRC in your rifle,
Mm-hmm.
it's an ultralight with a stock that doesn't have much on the rear end. It's a folding chassis maybe with no
Yeah.
bag rider, and it weighs 8 pounds with a scope on it. Bang, and you can't see what's going on. Did I hit it? And I'm
Right.
not a fan of that. I
Right.
like to see my impacts, and the 7 Mega does that for me. Low recoil, extremely good ballistics, and short fat case with a long neck. And they're a laser, so I steer as many people that direction if I
Okay.
can.
Okay.
If you're gonna shoot factory ammo, 7 PRC all the way. But the 7
Mm.
Mega is just barely bigger case capacity, like 2-3 grains bigger. But the performance difference between the two is a fair bit different because of the case design. Less body taper, steeper shoulder angle, handles pressure better than the
Sure.
7 PRC.
And performance for a layman like me when it comes to cartridge performance, are we speaking strictly about uh, kind of how fast that bullet's flying, or is there different aspects to that?
Well, the main thing for me is, wind is the biggest variable. And in my personal
Mm.
rifle, I shoot the 190 A tip, and we've killed a whole bunch of elk with that. The 190 A tip, the 230 A tip. That doesn't translate to other bore sizes, just because the A tips in these, bullets or bore sizes work doesn't mean it will in others. But those are the ones we have experience with, and they're very deadly. And the BC on the 190 A tip is astronomical high. It's higher than every 30 caliber
Mm.
bullet on the market, other than the 245 and the 250 A tip. So, uh, you
Dang.
know,
Okay.
long range, capability that way. You don't have to build the 7 Mega that direction. If you're only going to shoot 800 yards and in, I don't think the 190 is necessary. There's not enough,
Mm-hmm.
velocity will trump it in the shorter distances. But if you're, where I live in, Western Colorado, um, there's a lot of chances to shoot farther than you can shoot. And so I want all of the capability that I can get. And a 26-inch barrel with a muzzle brake, that 198 tip is cruising, 2950, 3,000 foot a second. And
Mm,
the numbers I'll use for whether something's ethical, 1,000 foot-pounds of energy, 1,800 foot a second, either way, it's pushing a mile, and you're just not going to kill anything that far away. So I don't think you need more performance than that. But we've killed
hmm.
probably 4 elk now, between 900 and 1,270 yards, and most of them had never took a
That's
step. So
impressive.
yeah, it does good.
Yeah, yeah, that's excellent. Right on.
Yeah.
Well, cool, Taylor. Hey, I really appreciate your time here. I know this initial interview was supposed to be very short here, but I'm sure as time goes on, we're gonna have a little more extended conversations. And I mean, the world is
Yeah.
our oyster. I had to stop myself. I had to bite my tongue, like, hey, what's your thought on boat tail hollow points? But
Yeah.
we'll get into that next time.
Yeah, I look forward to
So,
it. It's going to
but
be a fun year. We've got
yeah.
some cool things coming down the pipe, and I would guess that from the public, there's going to be a lot of questions. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. Well, we'd be happy to answer all sorts of
yeah.
questions.
Well, it's been good to talk to you, Levine. I appreciate it.
You
Yep.
too, man.
Take
Thanks.
care.